Hi, it's Michelle, and I'm a certified holistic nutritionist and emotional eating expert. And today I wanted to bust a myth that you need to restrict certain foods or deprive yourself in order to get through your emotional eating. This is not the case, and I would actually say this is super detrimental to actually resolving your emotional eating. So the thing is that depriving and restricting yourself in order to get healthy is a diet mentality. It is a typical of so many diets. And if you're here, you've probably been on one of those diets where they say to cut calories, to cut out proteins or fats or carbohydrates, to restrict yourself, to deprive yourself. And so in our society, we actually think about getting healthier with having to restrict ourselves and to cut things out and to give up those foods that we love. And this is absolutely the old way of thinking. This is really restrictive and it's not helpful for an emotional eater. It actually makes you go towards those foods even more. And so I see this all the time whenever I'm talking to new clients or potential clients. They think, oh no, they're bracing themselves. I need to cut out certain foods. I have to give them up, that my life is, it's going to be really uncomfortable. And that is absolutely not the case. It's important to actually keep those foods in and to create a relationship with them. So keeping these foods in your diet and in the way you're eating is super important. The reason is that whenever you have been on a diet, like I have been on so many diets, you swing from one extreme to the other. You're really good, you're strict, you deprive, you get close to those weight loss goals or whatever it is you have for yourself, then you have no more willpower, you swing to the other extreme and you give in, because deprivation and restriction makes you obsessed. It makes you obsessed about food, about calories, about good foods versus bad foods. It makes you constantly think about it. And when your mind is constantly thinking about these foods, it's not helpful to you, right? Like, it makes you very stressed out and you constantly think about the foods. You may actually go towards it more. So restriction and deprivation don't work. And the second thing about diets is that with diets, they don't look at the true cause of emotional eating. They're not looking at your relationship to food. They're not looking at what that food means to you. They simply say, cut it out, and then you're left grasping for straws, having no alternative to make you feel good, because you're using the food to make yourself feel good. So what I teach clients instead is to, first of all, we keep all foods in. There is no, I can never have this food, I ate this food. There's no judgment. There's no saying this food is bad or good. You're allowed to keep it in the way you're eating. You're allowed to have that food. It's important to have it in your life. And I'll share an example. For instance, when I used to go to parties, I would always have all the cakes, all the cookies, all the chocolate, because I deprived and restricted myself of those things that when I went there, I had no control, no willpower, and I just would eat and eat and eat. And I remember seeing this woman one day have one or two cookies, and I was like, how did she do that? I want to learn to do that. And serendipitously, my boss gave me a whole canister of cookies, and I started to tell myself that I'm allowed to have cookies. I can have a cookie every single day. I can have 2 cookies every single day. I'm allowed to have cookies. The cookies are going nowhere. I'm allowed to have them. I'm not taking them out of my life or restricting them. And guess what? I was able to do that. I was able to have 1 or 2 cookies without eating the whole thing. I was also, at the same time, the second part is I was working on my emotional eating issues. I was looking at the emotions under my emotional eating, or why I went to those foods. So I knew that I was going towards those foods for a reason. So whenever I'd catch myself eating these foods when I wasn't really hungry or anything like that, I would look at what was underneath. So I would journal about it. I would meditate. What I do with clients is I do deeper meditations to get to the root cause of what that food means. Why am I eating that food? What is it making me feel? Is it making me feel pleasure? Is it distracting me from my emotions because I don't want to feel them? Is it making me feel like I'm having fun? What is it doing? Because whatever it's making me feel is temporary. And when I was able to get to what I truly needed, to find the root and give that to myself, I no longer needed the food, right? And so I started to meet my needs. So the food was sort of this poor replacement for what I really needed. And if you notice, when you keep the foods in your life, you take the power away from it. When you deprive or restrict yourself of foods, you give it power. When you keep it in your life, you actually take the power back. And when you look at the emotions under your why you're going towards this food, you are taking the power back again, because the food is just a temporary solution. It's not even a solution to what you really need. And when you get to the root of what you need, the food no longer has power over you. And you don't need to take it away from yourself. You don't need to restrict yourself. You don't need to bulldoze yourself or force yourself to never have that food. What you do is you start breaking up that relationship to that food. And so it becomes really effortless. You no longer need it as much. So for me, for cookies, I don't really like eating cookies a lot. I have it with my son. I have it once in a while. I make them sometimes. It's not like an everyday thing, and I don't need it. It's not something I crave or want, but I know if I ever wanted a cookie, I'd go and buy a cookie. So it's much more rare that I'll want a cookie, but I know I'm allowed to have it. And so this is important. It's an important distinction between sustainable change and diets that are yo-yo and they're not for life. So if this is something that you need help with, I encourage you to reach out and book a complimentary consult to see how I can help you and if we'd be a good fit working together. And of course, if you have any questions, leave them below. And also, please be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't. And I look forward to sharing more with you. And I hope you have a great day.